Welcome to this Sahara 4 exercise. In this exercise, we will import electrical log files into our Sahara project. In the case of the electrical files, the only format available for importation is the LAS format. The LAS format is a standard designed by the Canadian Well Logging Society, and a description of the format and the app called Certified, which help you to verify if your file is actually is okay according to the standard, can be freely downloaded by the web page in the screen right now. So in the case that your last file is not actually complying with the last certified, you have to be very careful if you want to edit it by hand. In general, it's not advisable unless you are very familiar with the specification of the format defined as the standard. In this case, we are going to have uh, an importation file for each different well. This is the normal standard. There are some cases in which the information might come concatenated on a single last file, but in that case that's not really a last file, and it's not supported by Sahara, and it's not really supported by last as a last file either. So in this case you will need to have a different file, a different last file for each well that you want to have electrical logs imported to. So let's go to our Sahara project, and once here we will go to project, import logs, electric logs, and here we have our logs stored here. So here with the logs file, the recommendation is always to select them all. We have exactly one last file for each well, so we can select them all and we can import them in a single importation by selecting them like this. We drag your here, create a square drawing here with your mouse and select them all and open. Now after a few seconds, Sahara is going to process the information, and now we will have our last files for each well. Here some considerations to have is that you will have your field delimiter here. This is very common to other importation windows. You have to check if the format is okay, the decimal separator, the group separator. Also, the most important thing will be to check if Sahara is recognizing correctly the name of the last file. In this case, it's very difficult for Sahara to commit any mistake here. But in some cases where the name of the wells are more complex, or maybe we don't have the right identification loaded into the project, we may have some mistakes here comparing the name of the last file with the wellbore assignation that we have here, the identifier that is being assigned. So in this case, as the name is the same in the last file as it is in the main name of the object, it's going to be fine in every case, but we can check it. We should have one last file for each one and have them all up to the last one that is going to be 101. Here we should check also if the null value is okay with the last file. Normally it's always going to be this one, minus 999.25. This is common across all the last files, pretty much all of them, so it should be always the same. Normally the most important thing to consider here is that the name of the last file is the same as the wellbore and also the units. In this case we will do a quick checkup here. Field delimiter space, decimal separator point, thousand separator none, or group separator none. Null value, that's correct. The name of the file has been already checked. Here for the data depth, we should have the units in MD, which is okay as well. This is the correct unit. This always has to be checked because we may have the logs file loaded in DVD sub C, so that's has always we should always consider that as well, to have that in consideration. That's a common mistake when importing the logs file is not knowing or not paying attention to which format do we have for the depth. In this case, this logs file, all of the logs files here are loaded in measure depth, so we should be fine. And now we will import. Here we will It will take some time for Sahara to import them all. And now the next step after finishing this will be to check the log configuration window, which will help us define the group of units that is going to be represented inside Sahara, and also the dictionary of curves, the mnemonics, and the aliases. So now we have finished it, and as we can see here, everything fine. All the records have been imported correctly into Sahara. So now the logs files are loaded in Sahara, and we will be able to check on them later in the next exercise when we create the template for the log window. But for now, let's go to log configuration. For that, we will go to edit logs. So now here in the log edition window, we have two different filters that we can use to review the information. On the left side, here we have an object filter that we can use to check on each well which curves have been imported, and we can also select different curves. And in this case, if I select any of these curves here, we will do a double filter. We will see, for example, let's see, for example, density in the D12 well, it has been loaded as this curve here. I can unselect this, for example, and see all the different curves of density that have been imported into the project. But something that is important to consider here is that besides the information that is shown here, we have the wellbore, if we have more than one run, which curve has been associated, which is the date of the log, which is the unit group, and the unit that has been loaded, in which unit has this log has been loaded, the minimum, the maximum, the average, and all these other statistical data to in which depths, from which depth to which depth we have the log defined. The important thing to consider here, or the thing that is relevant to have in consideration, is that the way the logs are imported in Sahara, we have mnemonics and also aliases that normally they are also called groups. So in this case, what we have is a mnemonic, which is the name of the curve. All of these are going to be different mnemonics. We can review them by going here to the curve dictionary, and here we have the mnemonics and the aliases. So mnemonics are going to be all the curves that can be defined. We have plenty here. Not all of them are being currently used in the project. This is all the available default list of Sahara. You can add new mnemonics if you wish. In this case, you have to select which is going to be the name, the description, and most importantly, the unit group associated with the mnemonic. And the mnemonics are grouped. Sorry, I will open this one again. And the mnemonics are grouped by their unit group. So in this case, all these different mnemonics, there are different names for the different electrical resistivities, are going to be grouped inside the same alias or inside the same group. Once here in the alias, we will edit one just for you to see. If we go here, so here is the what is called the curve mapping of the curve or the alias edit window. So here, as you can see, we have an alias that is called den, belonging to density, and here we have a group of mnemonics that are unselected and two that are selected. Well, when we select a curve in a log, for example, in the log window in the feature, normally we won't go and select a specific mnemonic or a specific curve. Most commonly, what we do is selecting this group of aliases. In this case, here these two profiles will be considered inside this group. So when we look for density, we will use either this one or this one. In the case that both of them are present in the project and associated to the well, we will use first the one that is on top. So it's going to be in order. First we will plot this one, and if in the case of, that we have imported a last file that doesn't have this mnemonic defined, is going to go to the next one that has been defined. We can modify this one, for example, put this one on as a third option. That's not the case here. We will have different aliases for the different kind of more common group of units of profile of logs. So here, for example, deep resistivity, all these different curves will be selected as possible candidates to be included in this alias. So when we go to the log window and we select deep resistivity, Sahara is going to go through all these different mnemonics, check which one are really present in the project that we have, in the last files that we have imported, and first try to plot this one. If this is not available, we go to this one. If this is not available, it will go to this one, and so on and so on until the log has been plotted. If none of them are available, obviously Sahara is not going to plot anything when we call for this option here. So with this, what this window here allows us to do is to modify the how each of these aliases, or how each of these groups are composed of or are selected. Here, if we want to add a new mnemonic and to have it present, for example, let's say that we add a new mnemonic that is associated with gamma ray, the criteria that Sahara uses to select different mnemonics and have them available in this list is going to be the unit group. So let's do an example, just to check. Let's create a new mnemonic, and here we will call it new gamma ray. Example gamma ray, and we will use the API. I think was called gamma ray API unit. That's the unit that is defined in the alias gamma ray. So now, as you can see here, that's the unit that is defined. And now we will go to edit. Yeah, I want to save the changes. And now new gamma ray is a possible option to be selected and added to the alias that is called gamma ray. This it will become more clear when we start working with the log window, but for now have in mind that we can modify how these groups are composed of, and maybe depending on how the log information is organized and how the last files that we have available call each different curve, we may need to do some modification here in the future. The idea is that with all these mnemonics, the way they are organized in the different groups, all the possible angles are going to be covered, but this may not always be the case. So that's what I wanted to explain here with the mnemonics and aliases, or also called groups. So some things that we can do here as well is we have some outlier in these logs. I should find, I think there was one on the density, for example here. Obviously this value is not correct. Look how it modifies the average. It's completely like off. It's probably a null value that has been loaded incorrectly, so we can delete here the outlier. If we find any with this button, here there's another outlier, and now the curve has been corrected. That's some work that we can do here by here is another one, for example. So we can go and find the different outliers and delete them with this button. We can also do a statistical analysis of the information that has been loaded into this curve, into this mnemonic, into that well, in particular into D48 in this row. By clicking on this button, we will go deeper and see more about this statistical analysis in the future. But for now, have that in consideration. I think that will be all for this exercise. So thank you for watching and have a great day.